Hello and welcome, friends, to another edition of Beyond the Headlines with my co-host Linda Paris. Linda, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. Thomas, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Another episode, our 18th episode, guys, and we're going to be talking about Scientology. We're going to be getting deep into it, friends, so stick around. I want to say hello to Rumble, Foxhole, Twitch, and also DLive. What is up, friends? Glad to have you aboard. Me and Linda do this every Monday at 8 p.m. And we talk about conspiracy stuff. But in this case, this is not conspiracy. I mean, these people do what they do, and we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of it. Right, Linda?
That's correct. And if ever there was fodder, though, for conspiracy theory, these people create it.
Oh, 100%.
Shenanigans, like out in the desert and everything. And of course, L. Ron Hubbard, right up in there with all the NASA people. And they were a kooky crowd back then. They were all into the occult. And,
100%.
Really interesting. I'm sure that the chat is full of people who already know all about this. But it is a part of our history that now, in retrospect, is a lot more important, I think, than just some interesting story about some kooky people.
100%. And just like Linda said, if you know what we're talking about here today, call in. The number is down there on the bottom left-hand corner right up under Linda. So if you want to call in, make sure you do so. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get into this. So I think a lot of people are familiar with this because of Leah Remini. I believe that's how it's pronounced. Remini, something like that. So she was big on King of Queens. She was, within Hollywood, and she's been talking about this for a really, really long time, saying that there's a lot of bad stuff that goes on behind those doors. She's naming names, Tom Cruise, Danny Masterson. We all know who that is. Danny Masterson's from that 70s show. And he's convicted of rape. He's about to be convicted. The trial is still happening right now. We're going to be getting into that a little later on. But to talk about how strange this really is, first off, it's a I think normies see it as weirdos, and it's like a scheme to get a bunch of money and to become very rich, and it's all behind closed doors. But there's more to it. There's the people that have created this. I don't know if you guys know this, but L. Ron Hubbard was actually a 33rd degree Mason. And thanks to Johnny for letting me know that before we went live. I couldn't believe it, and we'll read that here a little bit later. But we were talking off camera, Linda, about L. Ron Hubbard's wife. We were talking about Jack Parsons, but get into a little bit of L. Ron Hubbard and his wife, and just talking about the stature that they really had. These weren't Joe Schmoes by any means.
Okay, I'm just going to talk about it now, but later we have screen shares and stuff, unless you want me to show a screen share now. But I can give you the lowdown on it, just the skinny on it, and then we can get into screen shares. But NASA, now I just looked up, this just gets deeper and deeper because the wife's name was... Nora, is it Nora or something? Anyway, her last name is Northrop.
Yes.
And all I could think about was NASA, Lockheed Martin, and Northrop Grumman or however you pronounce it. These are the big corporations that really are in control of a lot of what's happening right now. Especially Lockheed Martin, if you know all the things that Lockheed Martin has got their hands in. And so I think his wife could have been from the Northrop of Northrop Grumman. And of course, Jack Parsons was with NASA, and he was a serious occultist.
Yes.
And the story is, or as the story goes, they, it's not a story. They actually did it. They went out in Los Angeles, on the outside of Los Angeles. I guess it's in Los Angeles now, but at the time it was out in the desert. And it's called Devil's Head, I think, is the name of it. And Jack Parsons, who worked for NASA, he was a young upcoming rocket scientist, but he was also an occultist. And they were going to do what I think is supposed to be a moon child out there in the desert. And they redid, I think it's called Alamantra Rising, which was the Crowley version of this ritual to spawn a moon child. Mm-hmm. And I know enough. I don't know everything about the moon child, but I do know the moon child gets tortured in the womb. And so it's already being MK ultra'd before it's even born, and it's born under traumatic. That's why they do the ritual, to have the kid born under these traumatic, bloody, horrific circumstances under the full moon or whenever they have it on the blood moon. Okay. And so they went out there, Jack Parsons and his wife, and I'm not sure who else went out there, and they redid this Crowley, and it was called, they called it Babylon Rising.
Yes.
Out there. Now, there is a school of thought or a theory that they were conjuring, at the same time they were doing this, they were conjuring up the spirit Hilarion. And there is a theory out there that this was when Hillary Clinton was born. And when you get into Jack Parsons and his wife, well, Jack Parsons' wife left him for L. Ron Hubbard.
Wow.
And so when she's involved in the whole ceremony, first of all, you got to wonder if it's a he or she, being the product of this Northrop family. Seems like they would be one of the families, though you don't know whether it's inverted or not, but whatever. I've heard that Hillary Clinton has Rockefeller DNA and Rothschild DNA. There's got to be a reason why they keep propping this thing up. You know, it's like there's nothing really that special about Hillary Clinton. You know, she's not that great of a speaker. But they seem to just worship her. I think it's got to do with her DNA. So anyway, you wonder if she doesn't have Aleister Crowley's DNA, is what I'm getting at. At that, them being such high occultists and reproducing Crowley's ritual at this particular place, which probably has significance, using advanced technology at the time. I think this was around in the 40s or something, right around when Smelly Pants would have been born. And so when you think about all of that, it does make you wonder, what the hell was that all about? Did they make a moon child? And whose DNA was involved in the making of the moon child? And and they are all tightly knit. Hubbard and Crowley knew each other. Hubbard and Parsons were like best buddies.
Right.
And they were all occultists, well-known occultists. So there's a lot of websites and information out there. It's all open source. Anybody can get it. But we already know Scientology is weird.
100%. I want to show you this. I want to show everybody this really quick. Let me share this with Linda so she can see it. And then I'll continue just to show you this. Okay, so we can see here. So I want to thank Johnny for sending me this as well. So Hubbard's strange writings did seem to imbue him with a special kind of confidence and belief in his own abilities, which for many seemed like supernatural powers. A chance meeting with a man named Jack Parsons led to Hubbard and his new friend performing a bizarre ritual. Their ultimate aim was to summon a goddess who could give birth to the Antichrist. It didn't quite work, so Hubbard ultimately tricked Parsons into giving him $20,000 and ran off with his girlfriend. Let me show you this really quick too. Perhaps it was this exploration into strange rituals that played a part in Hubbard's creation of many of the core concepts of Scientology. He created a device called the E-meter, which is allegedly able to determine the enlightenment level of any individual. If they get the right readings, the individuals are able to proceed to the next level of Scientology, and if not, They usually have to pay up for more teachings and practice. Like I was saying, it's a scam, but there's also more to this. Hubbard was laughed out of England after once using his e-meter on a tomato and suggested that it could feel pain while being eaten. And he was starting to get a bad reputation in many other countries as well. So in 1967, he bought several ships and made his own fleet called the Sea Org, designed for hardcore Scientologists only. Let me show you this. So coming over here again. So it was this era that Jack Parsons variously worked at the predecessor.
Oh, we're not seeing different ones. We're seeing the same one.
Oh, is that what people are saying? Oh, my God.
Yeah, because we're seeing the very first one, Hubbard's Strange Writings.
I'm sorry, everybody. I'm sorry.
So
Okay.
It just hit me that you thought that we were seeing something different. I didn't.
Okay, all right. Sorry.
He's reading and just showing us this picture.
Right, yeah. Let me, I'm sorry, guys. All right, so let me bring this one up.
No apology necessary.
All right, hold on one second. I wish I knew. All right, so I'm going to bring in the second one. Right? What? Hold on, guys. Sorry. Why won't it let me do this? Go ahead, Linda.
No. You're using you're on a lot of different formats. That's why I guess you're having this.
Yeah,
right?
I'm trying to figure out why is it not allowing me to drag this? Where did that go? But anyways, you guys heard what I was talking about, so I'm going to go ahead and go to the third one before I read this. So that was just covering him meeting Jack Parsons. So let me bring this up here. Boom. And then I'm going to share this real quick. I'm sorry, everybody.
I forgot who the guys were that had the information about Hilarion. And they were trying to conjure up that goddess Hilarion, which a lot of people think was Hillary Clinton.
I wouldn't doubt it. So it was in this era that Jack Parsons variously worked at the predecessor of the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. This kind of goes back to the wife, right? A variety of explosive companies, electric companies, and gas stations, notably even rocket scientists needing to work. In this mix of engineering, academia, and occult practice, Parsons' path merged in with John D. and Edward Kelly fashion with the infamous L. Ron Hubbard before his Scientology fame. In this time, Hubbard variously played scribe, confidant, and polyamorous love interest to Parsons' spouse, Betty, who Carter writes Hubbard absconded with along with the startup of capital that he and Parsons had used to. And then let me show you this as well. So you're still seeing the old one.
Yeah, you have to go back out and come back in.
Good God, here we go. All right, so going back up to here, it seems to me on the information of our brethren in California that Parsons has got an illumination in which he lost all his personal independence. From our brother's account, he had given away both his girl and his money. Apparently, it was in the ordinary confidence trick. Including in the book are the notes Hubbard took while acting as scribe in Parsons' ritual workings. From his start, it seemed Parsons was destined for something great, magically or otherwise, but ultimately met his demise in a fiery explosion in his garage turned laboratory/workshop.
Or did he?
Right.
There is a question about that. But go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't.
It's okay. Sensing his end, perhaps, Carter reports that the last words spoken by Parsons were, "I wasn't done." The final utterance in cryptic in that his professional life had blurred the line with his occult life, leaving us to wonder which work he saw unfinished. Carter suggests that Parsons was a man drawn by an overarched Oedipus complex and a lifelong search for a father figure, both in Smith and Crowley himself. At his end, it would seem he found it in neither. So that just kind of, there are ties to Aleister Crowley. There are ties to L. Ron Hubbard's wife, who is again, Northrop, speaking on government agencies, not agencies, but massive companies, like military companies. We're talking, what did they say? It was like scientific findings, military use, these sort of things, big time companies, powerhouses, right?
Do I have share screen?
Yes.
Oh, I do. Can I share a picture?
Sure.
Okay, so here they are out there at that place. It says Jack Parsons right foreground. So it's him right here with the, he looks like a movie character, like somebody out of a movie.
Yes.
And this is in Pasadena, 1936. So he's building this like rocket or what is it? It's like a second ever rocket engine test. And it says the occult rocket scientist who conjured spirits with L. Ron Hubbard. Born 100 years ago, Jack Parsons seemed devoted to reconciling opposites, smashing together the technical and the spiritual. And that's what he did. He was bringing this rocket, this high-tech technology that they were using in NASA, to this magic of Crowley, right? The Jet Propulsion Laboratory is the world leader in space exploration. JPL scientists have put robots on Mars, sent probes into interstellar space, and collected dust from the tails of comets. But what if the real purpose behind its mission was something darker? What if the lab was less interested in exploring outer space than the depths of the void? What if its researchers huddled around their computer screens in search of paranormal entities or dark gods crawling clear of the event horizons of nearby black holes? And I just wanted to stop here because the name of that place was Devil's Head. And, if you watch David Paulides and listen to any of these videos where they're telling story after story of people that disappeared mysteriously in the woods, it's always at a place like the Devil's Punch Bowl or the Devil's Pond or Hell's, Chariot or something. It's like always got a name.
It's
like
always
that.
satanic. It always is. And this is, just to speak up on something that happened very recently was when Hillary Clinton was asked what she thought about 9/11, her quote was, it was like the gates of hell opened. I mean, there's no coincidences that these people always talk about this because they're probably possessed by some entity that is from hell.
Well, and they're kind of saying that that's what they were looking for, these black holes areas,
Mm-hmm.
And they all have names like that. Like, Devil's Punch Bowl and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Here is an interesting, can you see, did it change?
Yes.
Okay. Here's an interesting, the occult roots of Scientology. It says, and this is from a book, but it takes a look at the extent to which one of the most controversial of all the modern new religion movements, namely Scientology, is influenced by Crowley's works. So that right there, it is influenced by Crowley's works, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Scientology is. They're only looking at the extent of it. And it explores the link between Crowley and L. Ron Hubbard, the founder of Scientology. It reveals that Crowley and Hubbard had a common friend, John W. Parsons, the lodge master of the only operating OTO lodge, which is Crowley's thing, during the Second World War. Although Hubbard and Parsons were only friends for a short time, the links to Crowley give important information on both the origins of Scientology and the American spirituality during the 50s. And, let me see, there's the picture of them out there at that place.
Mm-hmm.
But also, you see Aleister Crowley, Jack Whiteside Parsons, and L. Ron Hubbard, a dynasty of black magicians. And here you've got the occult roots of NASA and the ongoing fraud, because it is, of course, a fraud.
Yes.
But they were linked into this relationship. And of course, you're going to get a lot of disinformation out there. They're not going to want you to think that NASA has anything to do with the occult. But then NASA is shrouded in secrecy. And they're also kind of flaunting this, it's out there. It's like these were the celebrities of the time.
Correct.
Who's wearing an Aleister Crowley t-shirt? Well, Obama was wearing an Aleister Crowley t-shirt.
Yes.
And, So it's that old thing where they're lying, but then they're telling us the truth.
Oh, 100%. It's the lines are blurred, but I mean, if they're wearing shirts about it, if they all support this stuff. They're all tied into NASA. They're all tied into these companies, and they're all part of the same bloodline. That's a fact, and it goes back to the Rothschilds. It goes back to these bloodlines that we always talk about. I'll go ahead and bring in Johnny really quick. Johnny knows a ton about this. He was sending me some information earlier today. John, my man, what is up?
What's up? What's up, Thomas? Hello, Linda. How are you guys today?
I'm doing great.
Doing good, my man. It's good to hear from you. You were sending me
That's
some
fine.
stuff before we went live.
Sure.
Delve into it a little bit about the whole 33rd Masonry and anything else that you've stumbled across.
Well, basically, I mean, you guys kind of really touched on it, but just to elaborate, I guess, or maybe shed some extra light on what's going on here. I think L. Ron Hubbard and Jack Parsons were a lot more connected than some of the records say. And Linda was absolutely right. It goes into the cult of Thelema and Aleister Crowley. The OTO branch of Pasadena has been incredibly deeply connected to Hollywood, and pretty much anybody who's into the weird esoteric side in California, for that matter. When they went out to the desert, and I think it was somewhere near Mojave, I want to say near like the Calico ghost towns, when they went out to do this ritual, it almost gets into the Rosemary's Baby thing. There was a girl that one of them was dating. They say L. Ron Hubbard, and then supposedly they paid this girl. I think they honestly just kidnapped her. I mean, these guys are sick. They don't value human life. There was a portal opening, and I think what they were actually trying to do was, it gets into adding the whole the scientific side to the OTO magic and the Babylonian working ritual.
Explain to the folks at home what OTO is.
Order Templi Orientis. It comes from France. It's an offshoot that Crowley was involved with, and it really goes back to France. This is the same people, the same esoteric lodge. It's above Freemasonry. It's a very hidden esoteric society. These are the same people that gave us the Statue of Liberty. And that connects to the Babylonian working that was done in 9/11, because that was also a ritual as well. It's not the Statue of Freedom that you're looking at. You're looking at Queen Isis holding the Promethean torch of light or illumination.
Whoa.
Yeah, the Freemasons, or as they call them, the Masons in France, it comes from sons of light, or they believe in what we think is illumination. Not really, it's false illumination. We know that Jesus is the light in the way Lucifer is the false light. So he likes to basically get his hoof into everything so they can invert it. So the OTO practices ritual sex magic. They get into some of the very high degrees that I really don't want to talk about. Mm-hmm. Some of the stuff they do, but it's very, very satanic. So basically what they were trying to do, in my opinion, was implant I guess you could say, succubus demon into this woman when they opened this portal. And what they did was they merged scientific technology at one point with this, because rumor has it that they put a baby basically inside of a nuclear rocket and it survived the explosion somehow. Some people theorize that was the Antichrist or some other evil Luciferian entity that may still be walking on this earth. But whether you believe that or not, the point remains that these people are incredibly sick. So NASA has a lot to do with the merging of technology and astronomy, astrology, the occult rituals. It all merges together.
It's the same thing like just with CERN, correct?
Yeah, and CERN, I think, honestly, I think they're trying to open portals. I think they're trying to basically atom smash. And I also think they're doing something as far as, I think they're using like antimatter, or what we know as black matter. And I believe they're using this for nothing but not good purposes. I did a dig on CERN back when I was on Twitter, and it's archived somewhere. I'd really have to go look for it. And I'm sure Linda's familiar with CERN too. But you've seen their dancing rituals. You know what's up, Thomas. I mean, that is one sick and twisted thing. I believe one CERN site was shut down, but I guarantee they have multiple sites across the planet. So yeah, CERN's really bad. I would highly agree with that, Thomas.
Don't you? Go ahead, Linda. Sorry.
I was going to say, and this OTO and all of this stuff and Crowley is all connected to the Theosophical Society as well.
Yeah.
entangled with it.
I think they all connect to what you've referred to many times, Linda, as the Vril, because that's just a huge congregation of just occult fun for them, so to speak. And I mean, if you look at Aleister Crowley, well, let's look where he came from. He came from, you know, every Masonic line you could possibly attain. And then he got into the Order of the Golden Dawn and pretty much had a feud with S. McGregor Mathers. Very interesting last name, by the way. We know a famous rapper whose last name is Mathers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, might be nothing, might be something. But yeah, he did literally cast a spell that killed McGregor Mathers' hunting dogs and took over the Golden Dawn. So redid a lot of those rites, and then came along the OTO. I think Crowley was quoted as saying, "I have enough Masonic medallions that if I were to put them all on at once, it would cause an elephant to stumble." I think that was one of his quotes. So you can go and figure out how bad he was. That's why pretty much every dark magician looked up to him. And then predating him, we know there's the original 007 John Dee, which gets into Enochian magic, which is another thing that these guys are very heavily into. So if that gives you an idea, yeah, I would agree with Linda's assessment. It's all Thelema. They're all a bunch of Thelemites and Saturnians.
And that whole Vril idea that you mentioned right off the bat, Blavatsky and all of those people, those original people, they were all into that Vril, you know.
Yeah.
And I guess what they're talking about is like maybe an ectoplasm or something like that. I mean, it almost makes me think of this Vril lizard having the ability to eject essence, life essence into, it's like a parasitic biology, if you will. And it seems connected because they have a lot of seances and stuff where this stuff comes out of their mouth. Do you know
what it almost reminds me of, Linda, when Albert Pike was writing that letter with green ink that supposedly produced itself, which was probably Luciferian blood. It almost reminds me of something that was produced like that. Like, yeah, and obviously from the mouth, or God knows any other orifice for that matter, with these sick people. But yeah, I would highly concur with that, because we saw it with Pike in his writings, and you know, probably many other very high up esoteric Masonic writings, people like Manly P. Hall. You mentioned Blavatsky, and she's very connected to Adam Weishaupt and the Illuminati, which dates back to the Spanish Alumbrado and dates even further. It really gets into like the historic roots of the Cabal back to Egypt. Yeah, I 100% agree with that, Linda. Totally.
When you get back, when we were talking about L. Ron Hubbard's wife, and her name was Sarah Northrop.
Right. Yeah.
And you know, the ties into those, like, you know, like Lockheed Martin and these big deal companies that are, you know, massive. They're massive and they're very powerful, very wealthy, and the things that they produce are, you know, for war and energy.
Right.
So there's a tie there somewhere, just like Linda was talking about. When you have NASA, you have these people, you have, you know, going into like even like what the whole thing is. That, you know, it's the whole premise of Scientology is they're speaking to aliens that live in volcanoes. Right. I mean, that's like, you know. They're trying to connect. The people who they're connecting with is, you know, like Aleister Crowley. They're talking about occultism. All this stuff is entangled in some way, shape, or form. They know what they're doing. And I keep thinking that when it comes to these big-time companies, these military companies, I think all this really does boil down to aliens. Yeah. I really believe that.
That's what I think.
Or aliens or extraterrestrials. You could also call them fallen celestial beings, as I like to call them, because the Bible specifically, to me, references the planets in Genesis, and they use the name heavenly bodies. And I've always thought of it as a different timeless galaxy above the firmament. But I would agree, no, there is a big connection there with the companies. I mean, I'm sure you guys touched on it. NASA, that came from Jet Propulsion Labs, JPL, which Parsons was incredibly involved with. Where did a lot of that come from? The Nazi technology that escaped Germany.
And it's not a coincidence that her last name is Northrop.
Right.
And she's surrounded. Yeah.
I would agree, but you know what? One thing that's kind of stumped me out of all of it, of all people, although I'm sure they know why, why did they choose her? There was something either about her bloodline, her lineage, maybe something that they had looked into her background. I'd really like to know why. I mean, maybe like you said, the last name. Why did they specific? Because they're very direct when they choose people for these rituals. They don't just pick, like, it's children, for example, they're going for the innocents. But if they're looking for a woman, they're looking for a specific lineage. They're looking for something that connects to something. So I wonder what it was that, of all people, they chose her. It's something that's crossed my mind.
There's the other configuration, because these people, they're not people, but these creatures, it's almost like they don't have any sex or any kind of definition that you could put to them. But I guess my point is, I'm thinking of Chrissy Teigen and
yes,
what's his name? Legend. So you know that she's not a woman, okay? So when they're having this moon child, who's really carrying the moon child? So I guess what I'm getting to is, could they have even back then bred the mother in an, what I'm saying, like bred her in a breeding situation, like they have, it's like, well, we need a mother that has this, and this, and they just put it together in the lab and just use them. And a lot of times I've been reading where they use these women and these girls as mothers, just as vessels, and then they sacrifice them.
Yeah, I would agree with that, because in the OTO, when you get in between like the 9th and the 13th degrees, which obviously Crowley invented some of those degrees when they increased it, that's exactly what they get into. And I would also imagine that forced demonic possession, because like you said, how do they breed? Well, we could get into that too, because it's like the whole Nephilim, and that's just, what did they do when they came to Earth, but I would also imagine that what they're doing is almost an incantation to invoke demonic entities into these poor children 100%. That aren't even born yet.
Yeah.
And it's just that it's a creation for the ultimate evil. So yeah, my research about goes on those lines, guys, for sure.
So that's where I get into the breeding part of it, where it's not going to be a mother. Okay. It's not going to be someone who's going to really nurture the child, I don't guess, but it's a Rosemary's Baby kind of thing, like what
that's exactly where they got the movie. Hell yeah.
And also, though, if they want something that biologically an entity can be a part of or want to be in, then they can genetically create that in a lab and prepare it. A lot like what they're saying about Diana is that Diana was born and bred to be sacrificed in that tunnel on that day.
Wow. Well, that would make sense too, because of all of the stuff they've done with the satanic super soldiers. And I mean, Linda, that could be applied to like what you said with breeders. Unfortunately, they use them, they get some, modified evil DNA super soldier, and then they sacrifice them when they're done with them.
Well, and the same thing with Hollywood and politicians. You get a successful singer, so you harvest the DNA and you use it to create more. And you want to keep that level of success going.
Yeah, that bloodline. Absolutely.
You guys
100% agree.
You guys were talking about this. I wanted to show you. I'm sure you saw it a second ago. I'll show it to you again. Right here. So this was his wife. Look at how she's dressed. She met L. Ron Hubbard in a sex magic cult. Sarah Northrup's life was difficult from the start. When she met Hubbard, she was living at a home of a physicist and occultist, Jack Parsons. We already know about this, blah, blah, blah. She'd been molested by her father from a young age, a trauma that likely... Yep, exactly. So continue on. She was already sleeping with Jack Parsons by the age of 13. This is what they all do, the pedophilia.
Pedophile.
Yep, going down. I believe everything he said, Northrop later said. I just never occurred to me that he was a liar. So, yep, pedophilia right off from the get-go. She and Hubbard stole Jack Parsons' life savings. Okay,
yeah,
so,
I don't know about
that. Hubbard was still married to his first wife when they got married.
Yep.
So, still...
They share their women.
Correct,
Absolutely.
100%. We're just... L. Ron Hubbard Lee brutally abused her, so she was abused when she was 13 and then abused this time. Second time around, fracturing. We all know about that. Hubbard tried to beat her into a miscarriage, so continue to think about that. He reported her to the FBI as a communist. Doesn't that
It
seem
does
familiar? What is going
Yeah,
on
make her seem crazy.
Yep.
Make her seem insane. And because that wasn't the child, probably from the ritual, oh, we have to get rid of it. It's not pure. It's not pure evil.
Correct. They made her act like she was crazy, active, and dangerous. Scientologists tried to brainwash her into staying with Hubbard. So more right here, look at this. So they would give her treatments for paranoid schizophrenia. Again, they're trying to fracture.
Psychotropics.
Yep, absolutely. Hubbard then kidnaps her baby. I wonder what he was going to do with that, right? It was 1 a.m. on February 21st, 1951, when L. Ron Hubbard and two of his friends dragged Sarah Northrup out of her bed, still dressed in her nightgown. Hubbard had taken her baby. We have Alexis. Hubbard told her, and you'll never see her alive unless you come with us. All right? Polly Hubbard had gone through all the same things. Sarah publicized everything on the advice of a lawyer, blah, blah, blah. Tell the truth, he told her. For the truth will bring you back your baby if alive. So blackmail, right?
Yep.
Sarah had to absolve Hubbard of all guilt to get her baby back. The blackmail worked. This is what they do day in and day out. It's all based on blackmail, stealing of a child. Who knows what they did with that kid? They're occultists. They are physicists. It's insane. I don't know what that was.
Astrology, astronomy, geology, all this stuff comes from, all those ologies have a mother in the occult. And I'll end, because I can't be on here too long today, guys, but I'll end it on this. So
Sure.
L. Ron Hubbard, I don't know, if you guys touched on the whole Scientology founding, did you guys get to touch on that yet?
Not yet, no. Tell us, bring it on.
Joseph Smith, who obviously was the founder of the Mormon Church, is kind of dabbles into this as well. If you really look at how Scientology came about, and L. Ron Hubbard was also a 33rd degree Freemason like Joseph Smith. So you have a lot of that occultic tie. I'd really tell people, look into the close ties between Freemasonry, Mormonism, and the Scientology, because they are one in the same, literally. So if Joseph Smith, who founded Mormonism and saw this angel Moroni, who I would argue as a fallen demon celestial being, saw this stuff, and you look at the stuff that Hubbard was into, and I've read in many different sourced articles, he was also a 33rd degree Freemason. We know Jack Parsons definitely was an OTO. It tells you right there that they're all connected.
Yeah.
No question.
Absolutely. John, it's always a pleasure to hear from you, my man. You call back anytime.
For sure.
Please.
Yes,
you guys have a good
John.
one, Linda. It's always a pleasure. I'll talk to you guys
always
soon.
Great to have you.
Absolutely, John.
And I'll see you guys soon. Take care.
Take care. See ya.
Okay, bye-bye.
Really quick, I want to say thank you to everyone who's donated on D-Live. Thank you guys so much to Donnie Girl, R.C. Anderson, thank you so much. I'll go down a little further. Where was that at? Where are they at? Melissa Marie, thank you so much. Placing protection, light, and love around you all. Thank you so much for the diamond donation. Very kind. And Victoria Lee, thank you so much for the ice cream donation. And on Foxhole, I want to say I just got to compliment everybody who's donating over there. Okay, it's not going to bring it up. But you know who you are, and I saw who you were, so thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Trusty Turnip, thank you so much. And 17 Pappy, thank you as well. You guys fund this operation. So yes, so there's so many ties into this, and if we get into away from these guys and we go into present time, what is still going on? Blackmail, rape, money schemes. It's still the same thing. What they've created is pretty much just evilness behind money, a wall of money that you can't get to the other side. It's very secretive. And, Leah Remini, I believe that's her name, was saying Tom Cruise knows all about this, and he won't say anything.
He owns the Umbrella Corporation. That's what they're all saying. That's an MK Ultra Monarch programming facility where they turn out super soldiers. Ooh, I wanted to share something.
Yeah, go for it.
You beat me to it.
No, go ahead. Go for it. Go for it.
No, because I just tagging on to what we were just talking about,
Okay.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to show you this picture of, because I was surprised, the picture that you showed of the wife. She is right here.
Mm-hmm.
And let's get this opened up there she is.
Whoa.
And there's him, Jack Parsons.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. And she is not just your average bear here. There's some really witchy, I couldn't, maybe they're taking them down. I don't know why they would.